Hello again, everybody. This is Jason with SONAX, and it is Friday at 1 o'clock. Thank you for joining us. And today is our part 2 of polishing the professional products by SONAX. Last week we touched on the professional polishes and compounds by SONAX, the Cut Max, and the Cut and Finish, and the EXO 406 and the Perfect Finish. Just to recap, the Cut Max and the Cut and Finish were more aggressive, higher abrasive content type cutting compounds, and the EXO 406 and the Perfect Finish are medium cut to finishing polishes. So those give you some of the highest gloss that you can achieve out of a paint surface. So to continue on to part 2, and I'm going to attempt not to bore you to death today, but to continue on with part 2, we're going to get into a little more of the basics of paint enhancement and paint gloss and things like that as it relates to machines that you use, polishing machines that you use, and the pads that you use with the products that we talked about last week. So what we'll kind of go through is we've got 6 SONAX pads here, and I'll go through kind of the basics and understanding of what the pads are and what they're used for and why they're used based on the step that you're in and the machine that you're using. So the first one we'll get into a little bit is this is a Flex PE 14-2, and this is a rotary polisher. Rotary, or some people call it high speed. Some people call it a buffer. There's a lot of terminology for this, but this is a rotary machine. And what I mean by rotary is it is a single axis that spins in one rotation. So that is a rotating, spinning machine. Now, why do you use a rotary machine? Well, for years and years, there was only rotary machines available. There are newer machines or different machines that move in a different way now that are available. However, guys that are in paint and body, collision, things like that, that market is predominantly a rotary machine. And the reason they use them is because they are very fast. They do create heat, but they also create a nice flat surface very quickly. So that's why you use a rotary machine. Now, some of the pads that go along with this. So let's say you're going to do a step 1, the cutting. You're going to do heavy cutting. You'll use a rotary machine, typically speaking, and then you'll use a pad like this. This is the SONAX Lambskin Pad. It's a bit smaller than most people would notice from other pads. It is a little bit smaller. It is a little more catered toward detailing work rather than paint, body, and collision. But it is a natural fiber. This changed a little bit. The old one was a little bit bigger, and it was a synthetic wool fiber. This is a natural wool fiber. The interface is now gone, and as you can see, it's a very natural type pad. What we like about this pad is how much it cuts, but it also reduces heat. Keeps the heat very low on the surface. So this is our highest cutting pad. That's what this is for. Now, if you want to use a less aggressive, a little bit less aggressive pad, this is our foam pad that is used with a rotary or other types of machines. It really doesn't matter. But this is the SONAX red high cutting foam pad. It is really pretty firm. And that's a lot of people are kind of alarmed by that when they first use it. It's kind of firm. You know, there's not a lot. Now, after you use it for maybe 20 minutes, it softens up. It just kind of absorbs some of the heat. But what this pad does, it's really nice if you're trying to do a really quick spot and you're trying to get some deeper scratches out. It'll take those out very quickly, and it's got a nice gloss to it. There's a lot of people afraid of this pad, and this pad is really nice, actually. You get people started on it, and they really kind of go to it. So that's our highest cutting foam pad. It's a little firm. This is our medium one. This is the SONAX green foam pad. This is a medium cut pad. And you would use this with, let's say, Perfect Finish, the SONAX Perfect Finish. It's a really nice cut. Glosses out very well. Most of the time, as you can see, it's a little less firm. See that? This is the red, sort of firm. Green, a little bit less firm, a little bit softer. So unless you're working on dark colors, blacks, deep blues, things like that, this will get you pretty close to where you want to go as far as depth of gloss. Now the last one is this gray one. This is the SONAX pad. This would use to be with Perfect Finish, or we've got a final finish called Nano Polish that we have, and this is the gray one. This is super soft. This is used for final stage for blacks, darks, things like that, where you want, when you're using a polisher in a system like this, sometimes you'll see that finest little bit of haze. That haze, it's if you look microscopically at it, it's actually little bitty fine scratches, and that's what this pad for, is to remove those fine scratches so the haze actually goes away. So that's the 4 1-inch pads that we have. Actually, this is a 5-inch pad. These are this is 5-inch, 6-inch, 160 millimeters, and they're all 1 inch in depth. So those are the ones that are made for a rotary. However, you can use them with the DA. However, let's move over to the DA. So this is the Flex XC3401. This is a random orbital or dual action polisher. There's kind of several terminologies for that. That's what this is. Sorry for the movement. And instead of rotating on a single axis, this actually oscillates. So it rotates and throws the head. So I'm going to spin this over, and you'll see how it actually, that's called an oscillating movement. And it's dual action. The reason they say dual action is because it's rotating and it's moving in a cross action. So it's 2 action or dual action movement. That's what that does. So the theory behind it is instead of just rotating in one circular fashion, it's actually moving the head, so it's polishing twice in the same area. So that's the reason for the dual action terminology. Now, with a dual action machine, the pads are a little bit different. The cell structure is a little bit different, and the sizes are a little bit different as well. Not only that, but the sizes get smaller and they're thinner. So this is, I think it's a 1/2 inch. I believe that's right. 5/8 at the most. But what it does is, the thinner the pad, the theory behind the thinner the pad is because the pad is thinner, less of the energy is absorbed into the pad and actually is expended onto the paint itself. So with a pad like this, when it's going through that oscillation movement, the energy is absorbed in this area. This one, the energy has nowhere to go but on the paint itself. So when it's flat like this, once it's spinning and oscillating, it's actually expending the energy onto the paint surface rather than in the pad. So that's the reason behind these pads. And we have 2 of these. We have a hard foam. As you can see here, it's kind of harder to press. That's our heavier cut DA pad. And then we also have the yellow foam. This is the medium cut to final finish DA pad. So that's what these pads are for. And this pad would go with, say, Cut Max or Cut and Finish. And on the label for Cut Max and Cut and Finish, there's red lines and red markings on it. And then on the EX0406, which is what this pad is made for, EX0406 has yellow highlighting, yellow lines, things like that. And that would match up with the yellow pad. So that's the reason for the 2 pads. Again, there's DA pads, rotary pads. That's the way they're supposed to be designated for each other. And honestly, it's personal preference. Some guys like rotary. Some people, I shouldn't say guys, there's gals out there. Some people also like the DA. Personal preference for me is heavy cut, I'm going to go to rotary. And then for the final finish, the DA. That seems to be a good combination. Not everyone has both machines. I'm lucky enough to have access to both, so I can kind of use that system. One thing that we wanted to kind of go through, Leanne wanted to see this, is there is one thing, if whoever buys an XC3401, the first thing you want to do is make sure you tighten down your handle. And then there's a little tool that comes with it. Go ahead and give those a couple of cranks, just like this. Get in there. Make sure those are tightened down on both sides, like so. Okay. And then this is how you remove the backing plate. On a rotary and a DA, there's different sizes backing plates that will fit different size pads. So this pad fits nicely on there. If If you've got a little bit smaller pad, which is the DA pad, see how that fits on there, but there's not a lot of room. So if you want to go to a smaller one, take your pad off. This is the locking mechanism here. If you rotate it, it'll depress down like so. There's a little screw in here. You depress the button on the back.
Guess we should have tried that first.
I think we should have loosened that first. That's good that it's tight though. There we go. That nut just comes out just like that. There's a washer and a nut, and then that comes out. Now this backing plate, that's that's the insides of the machine itself, but you see this backing plate has these notches in it, and they're gear notches. You can't just use any backing plate on these oscillating machines. There's a gear driven mechanism inside here, and there's a gear on the backing plate itself. So you do have to purchase the right backing plate for this. So when it's time to put it back on, you just take that off, make sure it's notched in there and seated well. Washing screw, bolt down screw, and then tighten it down. And that's very simply how you take the backing plate and change it to another one. So we'll tighten that down in a minute. So anyway, thank you again for joining us.
Why do those pads have holes in the middle?
Yes, the holes. The theory behind the holes for the DAs is there's two things. It is supposed to dissipate heat from the pad itself. High heat is not good for polishing paint. The other reason is it's theoretically supposed to keep the product itself has a tendency to bunch up in the middle, and what this hole will do will actually make sure that the pad or the product is dispersed on the pad instead of going into the middle of the machine and getting chunky and cloggy in the middle. So that's the two purposes of the hole in the middle: heat dispersion and product, keeping the product out on the paint or on the pad so that it's working efficiently. So that's the reason for the hole in the middle. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. And that's our Pad 101 and the product. So thanks again for joining us this Friday, and we will see you soon. Have a good weekend.